Hey gang, Sam here. In this episode of GarageCast, we talk about a concept called Dealer Assist. Dealer Assist is something we used to do with great regularity, and quite frankly, we don't know why it's fallen off. But Dealer Assist is to embrace private party driveway-to-driveway transactions by allowing the dealership to assist in facilitating the financing of that. So we bring both parties to the dealership, and there are some steps that Tony and I break down along the way that makes it a win-win-win for everybody. The dealership makes it profitable. Buyer and seller get exposed to the dealership and facilitate their own transaction. Maybe some sidebar activity that happens as well. So listen to this episode of GarageCast.
This is a show for anybody that has something that they want to say. It's going to be full of people with a lot of energy, CEOs, OEMs, vendors.
Best practice ideas in this industry and of neighboring industries.
We're talking to people that are on the cutting edge of processes, management.
Serial entrepreneurs, authors. We really have a feast of all different types of senior level people.
A cornucopia, as it were.
A plethora, maybe. Grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, and have a seat. Start writing. This is GarageCast.
GarageCast. Welcome to GarageCast. How are those 20 clubs coming for you?
Mixed bag. Depends if we're doing Marine, Harley, or metric. Quite honestly.
For sure. I just came off a metric group in Denver. Numbers look pretty good. There's some dealers crushing it actually right now. And honestly, came off a Harley-Davidson meeting before that in the DFW area, and the sentiment was positive inside the room. Those dealers are astute. They know what they're doing. And so they're not, drowning their sorrows or feeling bad for themselves. They're just resolute and kicking ass, taking names.
Suffice to say, the Harley guys, their sentiment is positive, even if the numbers are not. The
right.
Power Sport guys, to your point, some people are still really struggling, still behind the eight ball on inventory.
Yep.
But some people are considerably up over where they were last year, not necessarily with unit counts, but with profitability, which was nice to see. And the Marine crew is probably the most stable of all of them. That doesn't mean they're crushing it. It means they're doing better than they were last year, and they're stable as a general rule of thumb. So yeah, mixed bag.
Yeah. So, my Garage 3 group, the chairperson, John Hunt, Interstate Cycles in North Carolina, he put together a spreadsheet. He had talked to me. He's like, man, I found some really interesting stuff in the composite as it concerns to new versus pre-owned, and the ratio, whether that's a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 or whatever it is. And he showed the profitability of new units right now, new motorcycles, new side by sides, next to the pre-owned space. And crazy. We've talked about this. It's not like this is a surprise, right? I mean, the money that is available in pre-owned was insane, but there were some dealers that are running a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 pre-owned to 1 new, and some in the group that were as poor as almost double digits, 10-to-1, 8-to-1. And he showed the theory of lost income of why are we not focusing on these, especially with the geopolitics going on and tariffs and so on and so forth. Are you seeing that in your groups too?
Yeah, not only am I seeing it in the groups, Tony, you and I participate in all of the email groups. So for every 20 club, whether we moderate or not, you and I see every one of those emails. And I'm seeing a bunch of, hey, let's purge our new inventory now with some special before the tariffed inventory comes in.
Yeah.
Before that, whether it's the tariff on the whether it comes across as an MSRP or a surcharge or whatever it happens to be, customers, let's beat that rush, and now's the time to buy. So I'm seeing different versions of all of that, which is interesting because it does open the door for a pre-owned conversation, as well as getting rid of that new inventory that you're still hanging on to, that new old, if you will, that new obsolete birthday bike, birthday boat inventory that you're still holding on to. So I really want to focus this one, Tony, not about the new inventory you're still holding on to, but the opportunity, as you stated, that really is in the power sports industry, and not just to blindly discuss the opportunity of power sports that has a higher margin, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is I was out with JB. JB, for all of our listeners out there, I think you know him as the guy that does all of the editing for our podcast. He's also a very good friend of ours. And I spent a weekend with him racing gravel bikes out in Grand Junction, Fruita area. And we were talking about all kinds of stuff. And he said, Sam, because his daughter, Tony, you'll remember, she is a world-class wake surfer, right? So she is a sponsored or was a sponsored Centurion athlete for many, many years. And he has a reciprocating deal with Steve and Thad from Ski Dock, clients of ours in Austin, Texas, where they would help him sell the boat and line up the seller. And we started talking about that. And I was like, wait a minute, we used to do this all the time. We used to do dealer assist, where we would set up two private parties to come in and do the transaction for them. And they could facilitate that through our dealership. And we would charge them a nominal fee, $299, $399, whatever, in the finance department to allow for that sale to happen. And it's a huge opportunity to capitalize on customers and profitability in different departments and all kinds of stuff. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to unpack that, and the timing of it seemed perfect. So I do want to talk a little bit about dealer assist. So maybe you can dovetail in some of what you found from John Hunt as we get rolling on this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. One thing I do want to say before we get started, and I don't know if you've heard this, and it's on topic, but a little off topic on this, is I've also heard grumblings about manufacturers holding price increases that they were putting in play for tariffs, even if the tariffs go away. Have you heard that?
I've not heard that. I bet
True
you we
story.
can name what the OEMs are blindly and tell you exactly which of those OEMs.
I was like, oh, good Lord. So anyway, but yeah, hey, dealer assist. Let's start with the Genesis. Yeah, I did hear that. And I am paying close attention to this in the next few rounds of our 20 clubs that we will report on, beginning of June once we finish all of ours. But
wow.
Dealer assist, old topic, right? This is nothing new, but
sure.
let's bring it back to top of mind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the idea is that there's probably a lot of people, Tony's brought up on this podcast many times before that somewhere upwards of 80+% of transactions in the powersport industry happen driveway to driveway. In other words, the dealer never even gets to see the new customer or the exiting customer or gets a chance at the vehicle. And so this came up a long time ago as a way to support driveway to driveway sales and let the public know, hey man, we're happy to allow you guys to do that on your own. But most people buying a new boat or a CVO Harley or something high end like that, they don't have that cash available. They're getting the financing from somewhere. Why don't you let us run it through our dealership? We'll charge, like I mentioned earlier, that nominal fee, but we can open the finance department for the new buyer and give them the protection of a warranty if they want one, or priority maintenance, or all that kind of stuff. So that's where the idea came from. And I think it's a brilliant way to get, as a lot of dealers have seen transactions down in the Harley space and digital door swings down in the metric space. What a great way to get new people in the door. We just have to market it accordingly, that we are here for you. We will graciously facilitate that transaction. And Tony, as you and I are about to dive into, many, many benefits to the dealership, with the first one being the perspective that, man, this dealership is cool with us doing driveway to driveway sales. They're not trying to steal the deal or anything along those lines.
Yeah. So my big question for you is before we dig in a little bit deeper, is let's talk about the marketing aspect of this. Like how is the general public, or how is your market going to know that you are in this business called Dealer Assist?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's done, for those of you who know the train and hire model that we do, where we offer training for new hires and bring them on board and stuff like that. We would do it the same way, which is to say we would broadcast it on all social media channels. You would put it on your marquee. There'd be a flyer at the parts counter that would go into every bag that left the parts counter, just letting people know that, hey, we are happy to facilitate this for you. So social media would be a good way to get that model out there.
Yeah, this is stuff that goes on the banner on your webpage, so on and so forth. We are in the business of Dealer Assist. So as you said, this is completely to support the driveway to driveway sales. So many things can come out of it, which we're going to jump into in some of these topics. Let's start with the obvious, which is it brings new people into the store that may never, ever come into your dealership for any reason. They may be in the business of only buying pre-owned and only selling pre-owned. They may have a shop down the road that they used years ago to purchase this thing new. It's going to bring somebody that has never been into the store into your kingdom. Now, based off of just saying that, the culture of your store, hopefully it's a great one. They come in, they're welcome. Fantastic. They're welcomed by a great salesperson. They talk about Dealer Assist, and it is not one of those things where it's like, oh, Okay, yeah, you're that guy that's going to, no, it's like, oh, fantastic. Well, let's get this whole thing started. Let me explain to you how it goes. And it's an opportunity to show them the store. It's an opportunity to show them the managers, introduce them to everybody. So yeah, it brings people into the store. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a chance to win them over. Either the person selling on the outbound, when they get a new one, hey, think of us when you're ready to pull the trigger again on a new one, or on the inbound person, that customer who's always bought a pre-owned bike off of Craigslist or something is now coming into a professional dealership where this can be where we service their new vehicle that they're purchasing, be it a boat or motorcycle, whatever happens to be. But just introducing them to the team and having that warm reception, which Tony implies you have a warm reception. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I as we're talking about this, I think about this. How many of these people are hell bent on doing dealer assist, driveway to driveway? I'm going to have a professional operation assist me in this sale and get me into this process. How many people do you think are going to stop and say, I wonder what they would give me for my boat? Right.
Yes.
I mean, it's a natural question that here I am, and maybe I want $80,000 for my boat. It wouldn't hurt just to say, hey, what would you take this off my hands for? And at least it gets the conversation going down that path, right?
So put that in the parking lot, because that is one of the natural byproducts that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. It is not something we're going after. And I think it's important for everybody to know we genuinely want to support driveway to driveway. This isn't some, shell game that we're all of a sudden going to steal the sale from somebody. Yeah, it's not the bait and switch. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it does bring new people in the store. And somebody told me, I forget his name, but it was a marketing firm before the digital marketing was such a thing. Tony, we would market for all these events, and this particular company was very good at getting people to show up to the events. But the problem is, if your sales process didn't mirror the professionalism of the event, then all of a sudden you had a ton of people coming to your store who've never been there before, who get a bad experience, and they're like, well, I would never go to that store. Now that I've been there, I would never go back. So it does bring people inside your store, but you better be ready to engage them on the level that we talk about with the experience inside your store.
Right.
And so bringing them in the store, the next thing is what the first thing we're going to do, and you would advertise this and you'd have the conversation before they physically end up showing up in your store, but we're going to run it through our service department. Because for us to facilitate the sale, we need both parties to understand the condition that this vehicle is in. Whether we do the work or we don't do the work, we're going to run it through our service department. We're going to get 1 hour of gravy work. Your A-Tech is going to get an hour of gravy work, and we're going to give you full detailed report back to the parties that be. So now we know here's an opportunity for the store to capitalize on the work. Again, whether we do it or not, but at least both parties know what they're getting into.
Yeah, and while it's in service, this is time for gravy jobs for your A-Techs, and this is what we're talking about here. Is let's take it in the motorcycle space. You got cord showing on a tire, right? Or you haven't had an oil change in 5 years. This is the stuff where we can find good work for your level A technician. Not that level A technician will be doing an oil change, but the fact is we're going to go over that bike and make sure that it's worthy. We're going to check over the boat, make sure it's worthy to go into the water first and foremost. We're not going to give them the full length bill yet, right? or meaning of all the things, but yeah. This is where we get the service department to buy into this program, because they actually get to see the thing, the boat, the side by side, right? And this is where we get the technicians to buy into this, because they actually get some really good gravy work out of this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to get it up to speed. And that's the first conversations with the person doing the seller. Like, there are a couple of obvious things here that you may want to have done, right? But before we put both lists out in front of everybody. So yeah, good call on that. But at the end of the day, hopefully there's some gravy work that happens. The gravy work is the review of the boat in the first place, right? It's just the hour that we can do. And then if the customer wants to do some simple stuff, we can knock that out as well while it's on the lift, if it's simple and we have the time for it. But ultimately, both parties get that list. Now, I want you to think, Tony, if you're a private party, if you're trying to sell your Polaris RZR to your neighbor, right, and both parties now have a list, does that seem like a more equitable and fair conversation that everybody's in the loop now?
Yeah, it completely seems reasonable that, yeah, you're buying anything driveway to driveway. You always have it in the back of your head of, I wonder how hard this was ridden. I wonder how many of these hours out on the lake were spent drunken with the throttle pushed all the way forward, right? That kind of stuff. So yeah, when you both get the list, the equity is obvious. It's done by a professional service department, and there's nothing that is being hidden. So I love that. Yeah.
And we get a full hour labor rate on both sides of that.
Yeah.
So what happens, Tony, after both buyer and seller get both sides? They're both looking at the info to what it makes to get it back to snuff.
Yeah, so I'll take the seller and you do the buyer. The seller side of life is I have the list in front of me and all work can be done by the seller. If I choose to do the 4 or 5 items on the boat, it's my choice to do that. Less the mandatory things to make it seaworthy, right? So I have to do this. I have to make it worthy to go onto the water. But it is my choice to do whatever it is the service department has suggested. On the buyer side, what is it?
Yeah, and let's also state that your tires come in at 230 seconds tread depth. We're not going to facilitate that transactions. We at the dealership have a minimum on some of the safety items that we will allow that to go through our store. You will get new tires. I don't care who buys them. Somebody's going to buy some new tires before we facilitate this transaction. So once the seller says, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to sell it as is. Well, now I have the buyer, and obviously the buyer, there are 2 or 3 things that the buyer has to get done because we won't facilitate the transaction. And then there's all the other stuff that the buyer could get done. And if you sit here and think about if you're buying a pre-owned boat or a pre-owned motorcycle, most of the time you want it to feel like it's a new one. It's new to you. I don't want to have all these outstanding things. I want to make sure it's up to speed. And so usually the buyer will pick up anything that the seller doesn't because they want it delivered in a new format or as close to new as we can have it. So seller gets the first opportunity to get the work done while we have it here. Buyer then can come behind and say, well, I want it done either way. Those are 2 different options. And usually the buyer will go ahead and get the work done. There are a couple other things that could happen though.
Yeah. So once we get everything all figured out in service and we facilitated that we have a very safe thing for them to purchase and the seller and the buyer agree to what's on the RO or on the inspection. Now the good stuff starts to happen, which is, well, that's not the bad stuff that happens. That's, but the place where we can start really making a difference. And that is that we are going to facilitate the transfer of title in the finance and insurance office. And we're going to set a standard base price on that. And it's up to you guys how you want to do that. But if you look at what the doc fee that you charge in your state is actually for the transfer of title from this dealership into a bank or this dealership into your name, it's the same thing that's going to go on there. Tony is selling the boat to Sam and we get all of the paperwork done in our F&I office and, charge something reasonable, $299, $699, whatever you think that is worth. That is the first place that a dealer can make money is by taking them to the F&I office. However, though, Sam, when we take them to the F&I office, I pray that's not all we're doing, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Obviously, we're going to have an opportunity to sell our F&I products in there. And some of those may be required again from you guys because, again, state law for a lot of states says we, the dealer, have to take ownership of the boat for that period of time before we then sell it. So you're the go-between in between the buyer and the seller. And at that point, you want to protect yourself. And maybe you say we require a 60-day warranty on our part that we're going to put onto this deal. So maybe some of it, and I'm going to be very vague here on purpose because it's state specific. It's based off your state laws as to whether you take ownership or you don't. But you can see that if you're going to take ownership, there may be some things that you want on that deal to protect yourself, which would be a requirement for the buyer to purchase. Outside of that, to Tony's point, there's a full menu swing that happens in the F&I office, right? So we have an opportunity for priority maintenance. We have a warranty that we can put on that because we just did the review of it. And assuming those things are done, we're happy to put a warranty on the backside of this. Gap protection, theft protection, appearance protection in the boating world. All of those pieces are now in play. So yes, we got a full hour of work to look at the boat and see what needs to be done. And even if nobody does anything, we still get a $299 fee on that. The hope is that we can also get some F&I product on the backside of that.
You think there's an opportunity for the business manager to ask them where'd they get their cash?
I'm certain there is.
Is this because, again, this goes back to that 90% of power sports purchases are a loan from somewhere, So did you get this money cash? Is this out of your 401k? Like, how did you come up with this money?
That green folding cash like Tony carries around in his sock?
I wish, man. Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity for a professional business manager to take this in so many different ways and get some incremental business. But so there's your finance and insurance. And then from there, Why would you not treat this customer like every customer should be treated in your dealership after they purchase something? And that is that we should start the dealership tour. And the first thing that we want to do in a dealership tour is we want to take them and we want to introduce them into the parts and accessories department or the pro shop, right? I want to show you, hey, Sam, you just bought this fantastic new boat to you. It has a lot of cool things on it. Can I come and show you a couple of things that we're seeing a lot of our customers put onto these boats now? It's a really great swing at your pro shop and your parts and accessories department you have a hot customer again.
Yep.
To put things on their thing that they just bought.
We know statistically the day of purchase, they will buy more than at any other time. They will come behind in the next 3 weeks and continue to buy, but the day of purchase, let's capitalize on the fact that they also want a new surfboard, a new tow rope, a new, fish finder, a new whatever it happens to be, a new top for their UTV. Let's get them introduced to the parts department. Remember, the goal is not to transact them in the finance office and then never see them again. The goal is to bring someone who's never been in your store into your store with a service that's valuable to them, and then really enroll them as one of your customers. And then we put the sales hat on and say, hey, let's go. Let me have you meet Mark over in the pro shop and let's see what else we can do while you're here. And some of that, keep in mind the verbiage, some of it we may be able to put into the financing, which allows the opportunity for them to come out of pocket with the parts that we can't get put into financing. So now we have a full swing in F&I. We have a full swing in the parts department. We do the full ticket to ride or the what'd you call it, Tony? The dealer tour?
Dealer tour.
Dealer tour, ticket ride, whatever you guys call it, where it's the full walk around. And so much of that experience, which we've talked about in this podcast before, is getting to know the people in the dealership so that you just don't have the one salesperson, or in this case, the business office, your finance department. You don't have one person as a contact. Now you met Mark in the parts department, and here's Bill over in the service department. Bill's going to ask you to you got that maintenance program, didn't you? And it's another opportunity to take a swing in the maintenance program. Let's get your first service on the books, or let's get this list of things that we found. Let's go ahead and knock that out now. We're coming into a slow season. Whatever it happens to be, it brings the customer into the business all the way around, not only with the transaction in the business office. So the service department gets to take a swing at the customer as well as the pro shop now. And we really have an opportunity, Tony, to create a customer for life in a transaction that used to be driveway to driveway.
Yep. That is really top to bottom, the concept of dealer assist is to assist people out there. They're going to sell their pre-owned driveway to driveway, right? Insert yourself into those transactions, because there's plenty of money to be made, even if you don't take in the unit or you don't sell it yourself, right? So that model, from supporting it and marketing it all the way through bringing it in, F&I, getting your diagnostics done in the service department, F&I, and then a good dealership tour. Let's talk about what I hit at the beginning, which is, in all honesty, when you take something, if you take something, and this is honestly and truly not the intent. It is not the intent to be you're trying to switch them into buying it. That is not. We've hit the points of what you really should be doing with Dealer Assist. Now, this is the part where it's super hard to walk into a marine dealership, to walk into a power sports dealership with that old thing over there, right? That I just brought in on the trailer, and walk in and say, hey man, I saw you guys do this thing, Dealer Assist, and your eyes start going, wow, what? I haven't seen the new thing there, right? It's hard for you not to do that. So blinding flash of the obvious is, listen, if a customer comes in and they see a new bike, or they see a new side-by-side, or they're looking at the new boat, salivating, we absolutely take that as an opportunity to say, well, hey, I mean, if you want to try and switch and go into trading this thing in on the new thing, or you want to buy this outright, let us know, because that is never off the table, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's fair. I think, Tony, priority maintenance would be the best example of this. We want redemption of priority maintenance, because the goal is to keep the customer coming back inside your store and the opportunity to upsell when it's here for service.
Yeah.
The byproduct of priority maintenance is that oftentimes we don't get redemption. We get about half of the amount of the contract that gets redeemed on average, and half that doesn't get redeemed. Now, you may sit there and say, well, that sounds really profitable to the store. To which I'd say that's a very short-sighted approach, because I want the customer coming back over and over and over again. So it's one of those deals that I'm not pushing for non-redemption, But the byproduct is that we sometimes have non-redemption.
Yeah.
Same thing. I am not pushing to steal the deal that used to be that was a potential driveway to driveway sale. That is not the goal. But to Tony's point, human nature is, if I'm going to sell that motorcycle to the dude down the road and I bring it into you guys to get that first swing at service done, and what does it need? And I look around and I'm like, wait a minute, you can take this thing on trade right now and I can get the one I've always wanted, which is sitting right there. There's a very likelihood that I would consider that at least to a write-up stage and say, let's see what we can do. So the seller may flip him or herself into the new bike, and now you have that other one as a pre-owned piece of inventory. And then there's the buyer, Tony.
Yeah, that's the seller that's salivating. Now the next one is who's salivating next, right?
Yeah, so the buyer's coming into the store about ready to buy that old pontoon boat that Tony was referring to. It's on the trailer out back, and all of a sudden looks at a brand new Barletta and is like, wait a minute, hold the phone. What about that one over there?
Yep.
And so we have had it where the inbound buyer walks away from the deal because they see the new one and they buy a new one directly from us. Now, does the seller like that? I'm sure they don't. Did I attempt to make that happen? I did not, but that is just human nature, that we are drawn to the new shiny object.
Okay, so that's the seller buyer fiasco that could happen, which is great for us all the way around. What about a sales manager that is salivating?
Yeah, all of a sudden that looks like a nice piece of inventory that we might want to have on the showroom floor.
Right.
So you have the opportunity to buy that particular boat or bike outright. Obviously, if both parties are there and they've already agreed on a price, we're going to allow that transaction to happen first. But if either party says, hey man, maybe I would just trade in and buy this new one over here. Cool. Now the sales manager is involved in putting a price on the inbound trade, give it a proper trade allowance. Or more importantly, turning to your point, if the buyer coming in says, hold on, I want that new Barletta, not the one that's out in the parking lot. Well, maybe at the right number, the sales manager wants the one that's out in the parking lot. So we still end up taking that trade in as a piece of inventory on the showroom floor at the right number. Service still gets the work because we're still going to run it through the service department before we put it on the showroom floor. So gang, it doesn't take too long to come up with a bunch of scenarios where everybody wins in this situation. Buyer, yep, seller, and the profitability of the store. Yeah.
Yeah. And this ties into one of my points on state of the industry for spring of 2025, which is proactivity. This is being proactive. This is looking for an additional revenue stream and an additional opportunity to gain customers, to get F&I, to get service involved, maybe take in a pre-owned that you weren't looking for in the first place. At the end of the day, this is a very proactive approach to 2025.
It's we always talk about selling is not standing around and waiting for the door to swing open. It's causing the door swing. It's causing the digital door swing. It's causing the return phone call. And to your point, this is the proactiveness of causing people who weren't going to do business with you to all of a sudden be excited to come do some business with you, and acquiring some new people that you can put in the CRM and then put a fence around your herd. So we love the idea of Dealer Assist. It was cool to be able to talk to JB and have him remind us of that, and that we're hearing it in the 20 Club environment now. Is the timing of this again is very important, Tony.
Yep. Dealer Assist, this episode of GarageCast. It's going to be a good summer. It's turning out to be a really good spring. I'm pumped. This is another good arrow in your quiver, people.
All right, dude, let's wrap it up.
All right, man. So for Sam Dancer, I'm Tony Gonzalez. This has been Dealer Assist and GarageCast. Have a fantastic Tuesday, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.